Mary has a little plan to end your pain and sorrow. And everywhere that Mary goes, there will be no tomorrow.
I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much.
The first thing we're going to do before we talk about Mary Kills People and all of your other amazing projects is let's tell the world how to pronounce your name.
There are many versions. I'm not quite sure which one to use myself. Here's the story. I'm French-Canadian. So when I say it back home, I say Caroline Dhavernas. No one can say that here.
I'm not even going to try it.
So I've had to kind of Americanize the sound of it. So I used to say Carolyn, but then when I did a job in Hawaii with my friends, they were calling me Caroline, which I thought was really cute. So then I started using that. And then my last name, there's an S, which you pronounce in French, but I don't pronounce it in English because I heard Dhavernas so many times. And I was like, that can't be the end of my last name. So I say Dhaverna now.
Well, I think it's beautiful, and I'm thrilled that we got it right here. And now there's an on-camera for eternity record of you explaining it.
There you
go.
So
no one ever has an excuse.
I won't
to
have
get
to
it
explain
wrong
it
ever
again.
Just send them the link.
Great.
Mary Kills People is very, very exciting. It's a 6-episode series. Each episode's about 45 minutes long, and it's going to be airing on Lifetime on Sundays starting April 23rd.
Yes, at 10 o'clock.
So it's new to us here in the U.S., but you've been with this project and it's had a life before.
Yes.
Can you talk about the timeline?
Well, we shot the series in Toronto last summer. It came out in Canada at the end of January, and now it's starting here. And I was in Cannes last week. We were hoping to sell it internationally, so it's all kind of coming out right now, and it's exciting. And I'm going to L.A. tomorrow to start promoting it in L.A. as well.
So this has already aired in Canada.
Yes.
So what has the fan reaction been like? I know you have a very devoted fan base.
It's been great. I'm just not on social media, so I can't really take, I don't really hear much about it except when people walk up to me on the street. And, you know, people who don't like it don't come up to me to tell me about it. So I think it's going really well.
Well, I know that when you were on Wonderfalls, the season got cut short. Yeah, but it's very beloved, and your fans really came together and got the DVD released.
Yes.
So
it was thanks to the fans because I don't think it would have happened had those petitions not been signed by the fans online. So thank you, everyone who signed that petition.
I know that they're thrilled to have you back on television. Of course, Hannibal came in between.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk right now about Mary Kills People.
Great.
I like that the tagline here on the poster is, "She will kill you if you ask her." Unlike a guy like Hannibal, she's not just going around killing people.
No, she's doing it out of compassion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she has a line in the first episode where she says to her partner, "I don't know whether you're a compassionate doctor or a
serial killer.
Psycho serial killer."
Yeah.
And I felt like that just sort of summed up the whole concept.
Right.
Which is she?
Well, I played her, so I believe what she believes, right? And she's doing it out of compassion because something, you will hear this, you will get to know her throughout the episodes and realize that something happened in her teenage years that enables her to understand more than most people why someone should have the right to choose. And, but it's become a bit of a drug for her. I think she needs to kind of fix something that happened in her past or live these meaningful moments with these patients because it brings her something as well. So she's filled with contradictions. She's not perfect. She's also leading this double life that she can't really talk about with her kids, her family. So it's a very lonely life, and she has to lie to make everything work together. And her only friend that she can talk to is her partner in crime, literally. He's a recovering heroin addict. He lost his license, his medical license, so she brought him into the concept to help him out. And yeah, so it's a great relationship that they have because they only have each other, and they have this great banter. So it brings a bit of comedy to this subject matter that's quite intense.
This reminds me of sort of a cross between Grey's Anatomy and Dexter.
Yeah.
Which are two shows that I love.
Yeah.
And to have them come together, especially with such a strong female protagonist,
Yeah.
felt like something I've been waiting for without knowing I
good.
was waiting for it. I know that your creative team, the director and a lot of the writers are also female.
Yes.
Does that change the dynamic on the set at all? from projects that don't have such a strong female leadership base?
Well, I'm always careful to attribute a certain quality to gender. I think it's more about personality. And I was surrounded by a team of women. Yes, we had a lot of men that were part of the crew and the cast and all that. But I was mostly surrounded by talented, generous, open-minded human beings, Yes, some of them were women, and I'm so happy, and I want to celebrate the fact that the writer, the director, the producers, the editors are all female, which is, I had never seen that before.
And the star.
Yes. And so it didn't feel different. I mean, yes, the two producers came to my room the last day and said, we want to have lunch with you because we want to make sure that if we have a season 2 coming, we want to fix things and make it better. I had never heard that before. So I was like, is it because they're women? I don't know. I don't think so. I think men could have done that as well. So I want to celebrate the fact that it happened, but I'm looking forward to the day where we won't have to talk about it too.
Me too.
So
yeah, I agree. But I think that because we are still
there's
building,
still a lot of work to be done, and Lifetime is, working on that very hard. They have like a broad focus event. It's an initiative to really help to hire more women in these positions of power, like directing or writing. So it really kind of fits into what they were working on anyway. So
they call it the Broad Focus.
The Broad Focus event.
I like the double meaning there. Yeah. Strong broads in the house at Lifetime.
I hadn't even thought about that. You're right. Yeah.
Okay, so obviously assisted suicide is a very politically charged issue.
Yes.
Clearly, Mary, the lead character, has, as you said, a real compassion and a stance on the issue.
Yeah.
There are other characters that we meet over the course of the 6 episodes that have other opinions about it. I'm wondering, especially in Canada where the show has already aired, whether there was any backlash from people who felt that the show might have been taking one side over the other.
Well, first of all, the law changed last June in Canada, making it
countrywide?
Legal, yeah, for doctors to help their patients. So I think maybe that helped with people not being completely taken aback or appalled by the subject matter. I only, read really amazing reactions to the fact that we were talking about it, but I did run into a priest the other day.
As
you
one
don't
does.
run into a priest all the time. And it was at a painting exhibit, and he started talking about it, not knowing that I was part of a show. And we got to exchange a little bit about it, and his point of view was, what I had not heard recently, because I've been talking to a lot of people who seem to all agree on the same. So it's interesting. I think it's a really important social debate to have. May you be for or against it. I think we should, have these debates more often and talk, even though we don't agree, because it's the only way to really kind of dig into the choices we want to make as a society. And what she believes in is freedom of choice. Others don't feel that way, but I think it's a very beautiful thing to talk about death more often. And our writer, Tara Armstrong, who wrote this, by the way, this is her first project.
Wow.
Yeah, she started working on it in film school, and it happened, and now it's working, and it's a great story, a beautiful story. And she wrote it because she felt like we didn't talk about death often enough, and this is her saying that she doesn't feel like if we talk about death that it means that life is over. It's pretty much the opposite. If you recognize the fact that one day it will be over, then you want to celebrate life even more.
Yeah, I've heard the saying, you never really live until you're dying.
Exactly.
And we all kind of are,
Yeah.
We just don't always talk about it or always realize it. I
No.
love that words like death and kills are so used in this context, because I feel like so often in everyday conversation, it's euphemisms.
Yes.
Passed away or...
But this is not a documentary on the subject
Oh,
either.
of course.
She's a mother
God forbid.
Yeah. I mean, she's a mother of 2. There are light moments. It can be a bit of a thriller at times. So it's a fun show too. And I feel the need to say this because it's not, dense and heavy, and because even though it's important to talk about these meaningful moments that she's going through, there are other things.
And there's a lot of humor in it too.
Yeah,
And not ever at the expense of the people making that choice.
No.
But there's so many other storylines going in and out, and there's sort of some soap opera elements.
Yeah, and they're doctors, they're invested in what they're doing, but they can't carry everything back home, and they couldn't do what they're doing, so they need to add a bit of humor to the whole thing when they're done, yeah.
Is the show set in a specific city?
No, it's not. It's set somewhere in North America. We never really name the place, and I think one of the because it became legal.
I
in
was going to
Canada,
ask you whether that
it
changed
was a little tricky, and storytelling wise, it was way more interesting to set it in a place where it's illegal because, of course, as you can imagine, she'll be getting in trouble for what she's doing because it's. Yeah,
and that's a lot of the
illegal.
suspense is,
Yeah.
who knows and who's going to find out. In fact, the opening scene of episode 1, do you want to explain it? Give people a little teaser of that opening scene?
Sure, yeah. They're helping a terminally ill patient slip away on his own terms, and something goes wrong with the medicine. And as we're trying to help him leave this world, his wife comes home. And she doesn't know about what's going on, and so we have to kind of grapple with everything and get out the window and come back in because we forgot the money, which is evidence. And so it starts out really seriously and beautifully, and he's talking about us, having to go and all that, and then it falls into because they have to run out the window, and so it's a fun beginning.
Yeah. So in that first scene, you make him a cocktail.
Yes.
And I think that one element that I had never really thought about was you, as a doctor, Mary, decides that it's important that it be drinkable.
Yes.
I don't know what you call it, like I guess drug that does the job as opposed to an injection.
Injections, yes.
Can you talk about why she decides that and why that's significant?
Well, as long as the patient drinks, you're not the one killing the patient. And so for legal reasons, if they were to get caught, it gives them a bit of leeway to not be, put in jail.
Right, and they take a couple of other steps. There's releases and videos.
Yes, they film the patient saying, I have chosen to die, so that if they were to get caught, there's, signature also. So they do take quite, many steps.
I think it's interesting that they obviously know it's illegal what they're doing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are all of these sort of proto-legal steps that are being taken.
Well, her point of view is that society is not ready for it yet, but these people are left alone with this decision. And that usually they have to either do it on their own, using very drastic measures sometimes, or ask a family member, which is a huge ask, of course, or go to Switzerland and do it, away from everyone that they love on their own too. So she feels like they need help, and she is there to provide help, and no one else will. That's her point of view.
So since this was, like I said, it already aired in Canada, has there been discussion about a season 2, at least up there?
Well, we're talking about it. It hasn't been confirmed yet, but they have great ideas for season 2, so hopefully it will.
Well, having had access to the entire first season and watched it all in one sitting, I want season 2 now. And season 1 hasn't even begun yet. So if you could just have them get on that.
Well, hopefully.
I mean,
it'll be great to see how we do on Lifetime. And there's a 2-hour finale at the end, too. So it's actually going to be happening in 5 weeks. So I'm thinking we'll probably get an answer pretty quickly.
Good. Well, I've got my fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Are you splitting your time between the U.S. and Canada, or are you based one or the other?
I used to have a place in the East Village for 13 years that I rented. I had to let it go a couple years ago because they wanted to raise the rent and they wanted to kick me out.
Oh, no.
So that's over, but I live in Montreal and I come down here, once in a while, and I love it. And every time I'm back here, I just, my heart breaks a little bit because I can't believe that I'm not here anymore. I love this city.
There's always room for you here. And I actually have sort of a personal hope that you come back specifically maybe for some stage work. Do you have any stage experience? Have you thought about it?
No, I did an oratorio with the Baltimore Symphonic Orchestra.
What is an
3 years
oratorio?
ago. Exactly. No one knows what that is. It's a bit of a mix between a play and an opera. So you have opera singers, actors, a whole orchestra behind you. And as an actor, let me tell you, it's a thrill because you're doing what you do and you're supported by the violin who's right behind you, right there. And it's such a strong feeling. You're an instrument amongst all the other instruments. It's an amazing feeling. And we played twice in Baltimore and once at Carnegie Hall, and that was my first experience on stage. So I was so nervous.
They say the only way to get to Carnegie Hall is through lots of practice, but you got there on your stage debut.
And it was a great experience. I would love to do theater, but and I played Joan of Arc too in that oratorio.
Oh,
so
yeah?
it was a really beautiful thing. Yeah,
Do you sing at all?
I had one line that I had to sing. I'm not a great singer. I mean, I can sing on key, but I don't have a Broadway voice or anything like that, no.
Do you go to the theater when you're in town at all? Any shows that you're particularly
Here and
fond
there,
of?
I haven't really, I'm here for one night, so I can't really, but I'm coming back for the Vulture Festival in May, so I might try to make that happen.
If
Yeah.
you need any tips, let me know.
Okay, good. I might, yeah.
I know you're also really into like outdoorsy stuff and that you like to hike. And I heard
Yeah.
you recently started taking Zumba classes too.
Wow, where did you hear that?
Is it true?
I thought I never told anybody but my friends.
Well, you've been outed now.
Have you been talking to my friends?
Yes, I called all your friends. I got your
Yeah, I like
personal-
Zumba.
There's nothing to be ashamed of about that. What other things do you do like to?
Well, when I
For
worked in
fun.
Hawaii, I went surfing, which I loved,
yeah?
but I live in Montreal, so I don't have a chance to go very often. There's one wave in Montreal. It's like a constant wave, and you have to back up into it, and then you miss it, and everyone's waiting for their turn, and it's like the walk of shame when you come back, so I don't really like going. But other than that, I ski in the winter. I'm a big alpine skier. I love it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't have a car, so I bike around most of the time, and that's how I work out mostly. Yeah, that's boring. Sorry.
You also have a film that debuted at
Yes.
South by Southwest. What can you tell us about that?
Yay! Yeah. It's called Easy Living. We shot in and around New York, which was amazing because I got to see parts of Brooklyn and Long Island that I had never been to. It was. It's about a girl who sells makeup from door to door, a bit like an Avon or Mary Kay lady. And her life is in complete disorder. She's living in a motel. She's an alcoholic. She brings back different men every night to her motel room. And she's trying to structure her life. And she has a kid that she can't really take care of. Her sister's taking care of her. And she's a complete mess, and she doesn't have the structure in her brain to make her life normal, whatever that is, but she's trying to be like everybody else. Well, really, she was made for the circus. She just doesn't know. So it's a great part. It was, a great experience to be in Texas. I had never been there before at South by Southwest, and they're looking for a distribution right now, so hopefully it'll happen. I'm hoping we'll make some festivals, too, in New York, possibly. We'll see.
Yeah, that's great. Do you have a preference, TV versus movies? I don't
love
really know
both.
what the differences are.
Well, for an actor, I guess it's the security of the job, too. I mean, when you're doing a movie, it's great because you have a month or two of a beautiful experience most of the time, and then you're free again. TV, you sign for many years, depending on the contract, which can be great or not, depending on how it all turns out, So it's a little scary at times, but it gives you the opportunity to really dig into a role and a story and everyone's saying it's the golden age of television right now, so a lot of beautiful things are being done, and great big stars are wanting to do TV now, so something's happening. So it's a good time to be making television. Yeah.
Where would you like to see Mary go for season 2 of Mary Kills People? By the way, she's giving me the eye right now from
Yeah.
this poster, and all I can see is she will kill
She
you.
means business. Where do I want her to go? It's funny, I don't think about that. I let the writers go there, but I talked to them and they told me that they wanted to add more gray zones to the patients that they're helping, because mental illness, when you get into that debate, it's, even more morally gray. And so I think we'll be doing a bit of that. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Did you do a lot of research about medicine
I did
or
not have
about
time.
assisted suicide?
It all happened very quickly.
Yeah, did you find out pretty soon before shooting happened that you had
No,
landed the
like
role?
3 weeks in advance, and then I headed to Toronto and I did some hair and makeup tests, and I learned my lines and met everybody, and there we were. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I wouldn't have known it. I mean, there's some moments when you are in Mary's day job as an ER doctor, and you sure do look like you know what you're doing.
Well, I played a doctor before, so I know how
Yes,
to
that's
deliver
right.
a baby and stuff
Yeah,
like that. But,
yeah, that's right.
No, I did. Yeah, I played, a doctor on Hannibal. She was a psychiatrist, and on, Off the Map. So I guess I remembered a few, like how to do sutures, all that.
Yeah, that's great. We have time to take a couple of questions from
Yay,
the audience
yes.
if you're up for that.
Great.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for being here. So, what other projects or genres would you like to pursue that you didn't do yet?
What other projects? I'd love to do more comedy. Wonderfalls was, my first access to comedy. I feel like I learned so much from Todd Holland and Brian Fuller. Todd Holland was directing a lot of episodes, so it was such a discovery for me, and I love it. And I'm really loving those moments on the show on Mary Kills People when there's a bit of comedy. So I would really love to do a big fat comedy at some point. Yeah.
Great. Another question?
Hi.
Hi.
First off, you had mentioned the whole thing about your name, and I find it funny because I have a similar issue with mine.
Really? What's your name?
It's spelled Kaylin, but I recently discovered it's pronounced Killeen, which I like better. So when you're in your 30s, it's that age where you're like, how do I change my name without anybody getting weirded out by it?
And everyone does.
And everybody does.
Yeah.
But actually, you had brought up Wonderfalls, and that's what introduced me to you. I've been following your career since then.
Thank you.
And of course. And I'm just wondering, starting on a show like Wonderfalls, where you're playing someone who's so realistic, who I completely connected to 100%, and yet having that little sci-fi twist or that fantasy twist to it. And then kind of similar with Hannibal, where you're realistic in this very strange kind of universe. And even now with this, how do you separate that? How do you play the normal character and then suddenly twist into that insanity that comes up?
That's a really good question. I don't really know what I do, and when I try to explain it, I always feel like I don't analyze it really. I don't know. Usually it's on the page, and then you bounce ideas around with the director and the other actor in the scene, and it happens weirdly. But you always have to dig into your own emotional truth, and that comes from your past stories or just the way that you feel receiving a scene, or I don't know how else to explain it. I wish I did.
Well, I can tell you from having watched your work that I feel like you just bring this inherent human authenticity to every role you play.
Thank you.
And no matter what the rules of the world that you're in, that the character is in, you are living such a truth within the rules of that world, which I think makes you very relatable and human, even in a sort of sci-fi kind of setting.
Yeah, well, I guess it's a good job to have when you're hypersensitive like I am. I mean, all these roller coaster of emotions that you feel in your daily life, you can use and tap into. So it's great because sometimes you're feeling kind of, and my mother's an actress as well, and she gave me this advice when I was starting, when I was a kid, and she said, when you feel bad when you wake up or you've gone through something, maybe your character's feeling like that day. So instead of fighting the state of mind that you're in, just use it. And that's so great because I don't have a job where, no, that's not true, actually. I was going to say a complete lie. Because when you're feeling down and you have to play a really fun scene, it takes a lot of work sometimes to just be somewhere else completely.
Yeah.
So it can be tough at times, when you're sick and you have to go to work, you can't just call in sick. But it's can be really useful in other moments. Yeah.
I know you mentioned that you started working as a kid. You started as a voiceover and like professional dubber. Is that what you call it? Like you were doing
I was 8
American
years old
movies into French.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still do any of that?
I do. Yeah. I recently dubbed. I'm forgetting her name, of course, because I have to talk about her. Ellen. She did Juno.
Oh, Ellen Page.
Ellen Page, yeah, in a Canadian movie that she did. And she's a joy to dub because she's a great actress. And then I had to dub another actress that I thought was terrible, and that was a terrible time.
So you mentioned that you were in Cannes trying to get distribution for this internationally.
Yep.
If it gets picked up in France, will you dub yourself
Yes,
into
there's
French?
talk of that happening already, and for the distribution in Quebec as well. So, yeah, I did that for Wonderfalls. It's quite the job because you have to do everything you did already all over again in a different language. And a language is it's a big part of the identity of your character. So you have to kind of do this all over again, but just twist it with another language. It's a weird thing, but I'd rather do it than let someone else do it. And it's happened before, like Hannibal. I tried to dub myself, but it was happening in France, and I couldn't go, and they wouldn't anyway. I don't think they really cared, so someone else did it, and it's fine. She has a good voice.
I heard there's one actress that is very, very good at doing your voice.
Who?
Your sister.
Oh, yeah. One time, she had to come in, and you know what? We have the same voice. When our friends called when we both lived at home back in the day, we would play tricks on them because they could never tell the difference.
Yeah.
So yeah, one time I couldn't do a voice that I had to do, and she came in and she did it.
That's so great.
Yeah.
You just sent her in your place. And you're
Yeah.
not twins, right?
No, we're 5 years apart. She's a social worker. I mean, she did a lot of dubbing as a kid as well, but she's not into that anymore.
Great.
No.
We've got time for one more question.
I'm curious to know, since you've brought Mary to life, if you had to step into the shoes of one of her patients, would you let Mary kill you?
Ooh.
That's a big question because I'm not Mary, but you know what? I think so because I don't want to give too much away, but someone very close to her had to go through it. And that's when her wheels started spinning, and that's why it became so emotional for her. And I wish we could talk about it once you'd seen the show. There's so many
When
things
you
I
come
could
back to
tell
promote
you.
season 2,
Yeah.
then we'll talk about it.
There's a moment where she has to kill a patient, and so many horrible things are happening in her life. Everyone hates her at some point, and she confesses her whole life story to someone, and it's a really beautiful. I think it's the most important scene in the show, and then you'll really get to know why she's doing this. Yeah.
She also takes her responsibility very seriously.
Yeah.
And I think that if she experienced any hesitation from the person that she had been,
Oh, and that happens in the very first episode.
Yeah.
He's talking about what he's about to do, and he's not sure. And she says, if you're not ready to do this, we don't have to do this today. It's a huge decision, and just take your time with it. And he carries on with it. But yeah, she's not doing this just because she's not addicted to seeing people die who don't want to die. It's the other way around. Yeah.
I cannot wait for you guys to experience this show. Like I said, I had the gift of watching all 6 episodes. You guys, unfortunately, will have to tune in every Sunday night on Lifetime for 6 weeks in a row, starting April 23rd. It'll be well worth your time, I promise. This show is so beautiful, and you
Thank
are
you.
just a star. I love having this opportunity to spend time with Mary and
you
to
are
have
fantastic.
gotten to know
Thank you, and thank you all for being here.
Thank you.